بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم انفعنا وانفع بنا يا كريم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everyone listening and tuning into this series. Inshallah, we will continue our discussion on high quality edition books and some examples of what is a high quality edition book, how to spot a high quality edition book, what effort and what kind of work does it take to actually produce a high quality edition book. And inshallah, we have in front of us today interesting work, al-Mustadrak al-Sahihain by al-Imam al-Hakim rahimahullah. And this is a very high quality edition book which has a very interesting story behind the muhaqqiq, who is Sheikh Ashraf ibn Muhammad Najib al-Misri, an Egyptian scholar from Egypt. And he produced a very high quality edition for al-Mustadrak. So you see over here that it's produced by Darul Minhaj al-Qawim, which is a very high quality, very well renowned publishing house. So if they publish a book, it's usually the best, if not one of the best. So Sheikh Ashraf, with a team, mainly he was doing the tahqiq, he was doing the editing and the verification, and he produced this edition of the Mustadrak al-Sahihain, which is, as he says in his own words, طبعة فريدة محققة منقحة. It's a unique, edited and well-refined edition. مقابلة على 8 نسخ خطية مقابلة تامة, which has been verified and checked with, using 8 handwritten manuscripts. So 8 manuscripts were used in order to produce this edition of the text. So you can just imagine that usually if you find a book, what happens is that it's written, the manuscript is written down. Usually, if they're a commercial publisher like DKI, right, we just read that they don't even look at the manuscript, right? What they usually do is they get the old edition, which was printed on, via lithographic printing. You can search it up on YouTube. It's basically, how the old printing presses used to work before, they got modernized and all of that. So, what they would do is that they would get that old text and just type it up on the computer, complete, free, with the thousands of mistakes, and you buy it, right? So what this, editors who take their work seriously, what they do is that not only do they go out and search for the best manuscript, but they use multiple manuscripts, right? They don't just use 1 or 2 manuscripts, because 1 or 2 manuscripts can contain mistakes. They take maybe 5, 10, 15 20 manuscripts sometimes, and they do a cross verification. Sure, they use one as the asl, the like they get the highest quality one. For example, if they found a manuscript written by the author himself, then they probably use that as the base one, and then they use the other manuscripts as, like, there's differences in, for example, in the Maktaba Misriya manuscript there was this edition, and in that one there was this edition, and in that one it was a different word, and in that one there was this paragraph was missing, or etc. etc. So cross verification using multiple manuscripts, that's the high quality and high that's just basically the process which gets you producing a high quality work. So it was cross-verified using 8 manuscripts. كما قُبلت على 4 نسخ خطية من تلخيص الذهبي للمستدرك. And not only that, it was also cross-verified using 4 manuscripts of تلخيص الذهبي للمستدرك. So we know that Imam Dhahabi, he did he put some effort into Mustadrak, because as we know, Mustadrak is Imam al-Hakim wasn't the best in hadith authentication. He misunderstood Sheikh Bashar Awad Ma'ruf rahimahullah in his lectures in Sahih al-Bukhari, and Sheikh Judaya in his book Tahrir Ulum al-Hadith. They talk about Imam al-Hakim and the blunders he made in Mustadrak al-Sahihain. And so we know that Imam Zahabi had to contribute in order to make the work usable, because we can't just to make things short, you can't rely on Imam Hakim saying this is a hadith sahih. It's he misunderstood the methodology of the Shaykhain, so you can't just rely on him. Rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him. But yeah, that's the truth. So Imam Zahabi, he wrote his Talkhis, and the author not only cross-verified this edition with 8 original manuscripts of Mustadrak al-Sahihain, but also 4 other manuscripts for Talkhis of Zahabi lil Mustadrak. So Imam Zahabi's summarization of the book, he cross-verified it using 4 manuscripts of that. And then وَقُوبِلَتْ أَسَانِيدُهَا عَلَى إِتْحَافِ الْمَحَرَ لِابْنِ حَجَرٍ. Not only that, Ibn Hajar has a book called إِتْحَافُ الْمَحَرَ, which is basically a hadith. It's in the genre of takhrij and atraf hadithiyya. And basically what it is that it makes, because back then they didn't have computers, right? So if you wanted to source a hadith, do takhrij of a hadith, it would be very hard. Imagine going through like pages upon pages of Sahih al-Bukhari to find a hadith. It would be very hard. And that's why there's a difference between a muhaddith and a faqih. A faqih is good in fiqh, but he doesn't necessarily know hadith. And a muhaddith is good in hadith, but he necessarily doesn't know the fiqh. He doesn't probably understand the hadith. He's mainly just there to memorize the hadith and if he has diraya as well, know the narrators and the ilal and all that stuff. And a person who compiles between both, between fiqh and hadith, is like the gun of a scholar. He's like the best of both worlds, right? He's got two swords. So some people had fiqh but not hadith. Some people had hadith but not fiqh. But the guys who combine between both, like Imam Tahawi, Imam Abdul Barr, Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, Imam Malik, probably one of the earliest pioneers of combining between fiqh and hadith. When you combine between both of them, you get the gold, right? You get the pot of gold at the end. So Ibn Hajar has this book Ithaf al-Mahara, and in it has chains of narration, and under those chains of narration you can find hadiths. And this is atraf al-hadith. This genre of atraf al-hadith is there so that to make takhrij easy. It tells you that you can find this hadith in this Sunan al-Bayhaqi, you can find it in Musnad al-Darimi, you can find it in Sharh Ma'ani al-Athar, something like that. And it gives you like symbols, so you can quickly find under this chain you can find this hadith, and in this hadith can be find it in this work. So not only was this book cross-verified with these manuscripts and Imam Zahabi's Mustadrak, but also its chains of narration was cross-verified with Imam Ibn Hajar's Ithaf al-Mahara. So imagine that, maybe Ibn Hajar had a more authentic version of Mustadrak than all the manuscripts that reached us today. So wouldn't it be good, or wouldn't a diligent scholar go that extra length to check the book with the chains of narration that Ibn Hajar had for for Mustadrak al-Sahihain? Because that's what your scholarship requires. كما رجعت على مرويات البيهقي عن الحاكم وأصول الروايات المصنف. Just like it was muraja'a, so it was cross-verified, it was verified, right, on using the narrations of Imam al-Bayhaqi from Imam Hakim وأصول الروايات المصنف, and then using the original narrations that Imam al-Bayhaqi has from Imam Hakim. So I believe this what it's saying is that Imam al-Bayhaqi narrated a lot of the hadiths Imam al-Hakim put in his book. So also we can cross-verify, what narrations reach al-Bayhaqi, and is there a difference between what hadiths reach al-Bayhaqi from Imam Hakim and what Imam Hakim's manuscripts of Mustadrak wrote. Maybe there might be a difference, maybe not, right? But if there is, it will be interesting to see and compare. Why is there a difference? Why did some hadiths reach Imam al-Bayhaqi from Imam Hakim, but it didn't reach us in the original manuscripts or the tertiary manuscripts? So it's interesting stuff. And وبذا استكملت النقص وعالجت الخلل الواقع في الطبعات التي سبقتها كافة وبحاشية الكتاب تعليقات وتعقيبات كل من الذهبي وابن حجر وابن الملقن وغيرهم من أهل العلم. So after this long arduous process, this edition finally filled in all the gaps and filled in all the discrepancies and reconciled and rectified all the discrepancies which have occurred in all the other prints. So all the other editions of Mustadrak al-Sahihain was defective. They were wrong. They had mistakes. And we will see in the coming sessions the mistakes that were in the chains, that were in the words of the hadith. Right? All of these mistakes were finally rectified because somebody took the responsibility and the task of producing a high quality edition of Al-Mustadrak al-Sahihain. So this is why this edition and this muhaqqiq, they're well known. Their name is known to be associated with this book. That if you want the critical edition, critical edition means the highest quality edition in the market. You want the critical edition of Al-Mustadrak al-Sahihain, then you get the edition by Darul Minhaj under the tahqiq of Sheikh Ashraf. And obviously, not only did he produce the high quality matan, the text, he also added important footnotes and taqibat is like corrections and things like that from Imam al-Dhahabi, Imam al-Hajar, Imam al-Mulaqin, and other people from the Ahl al-Ilm. So inshallah, in the next session we're going to see what makes this, we're going to see practical examples of what this edition fixed from all the other editions of Mustadrak al-Sahihain. And inshallah we'll see again the importance of choosing a high quality edition of a book before you begin to read it. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll do that in the next session. Jazakallah khair for all listening, and stay tuned for the next episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.